Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the That's So Raven event, in which the Rukh is added to the game. Also, happy Easter week everyone. Of course, we got Easter going on this weekend. We got a few festive Easter things going on in-game this week for Gems of War, most notably the pet this Wednesday. We do have a few spring events coming out as well pretty soon. For example, Spring Ib is out right now, but you probably want to wait until the new Mythic coming out this Friday, so you can simultaneously get both of those. The new Mythic this Friday while also getting Spring if you don't already have it. And also, we have a whole Spring holiday event coming up in about 2 weeks from now, though that does not affect this week. But anyways, so let's go and start getting into the new troop. It is very similar to that of Amira. You can stock up on a bunch of red purples if you need. If I'm not mistaken, it's actually the same color as Amira, which is from Leonis Empire. It's the free epic you get from Leonis Empire. But basically, the other one does true damage, but does double damage to blue. This one does double damage to purple. Deals a bunch of true damage to an enemy, curses them, and if the enemy uses purple, it deals double damage to them. So it can hit kind of hard, but similar to Amira, there's just not much of a use case for it, particularly later on in the game, because the damage range that it does is not enough to one-shot, making it pretty much useless. It does have some pretty nice immunities and setup here, as immune to freeze, immune to mana burn, all that. Mana drain, most notably, stealthy. Like, all that's kind of nice, but its ability just doesn't do enough. We've already seen it with Amira. Amira is almost never used in the current state of the game, and this is going to be exactly the same, as it doesn't have any kind of mana link, doesn't have any kind of extra ability, doesn't have any extra turn potential. Just a true damage poke that generally does not kill. Maybe earlier on in the game, some damage ranges it might, but more often than not, it's not worth using compared to something that hits something simultaneously everywhere, or something that can guarantee kill, or any of the many other options available. So unfortunately, not worth using. But you would still get it, as is another Kingdom Star. Glacial Peaks can reach 25 stars as of this week. That 25 stars does allow you to be able to get another 2,000 gold per day, which is not a lot, but it adds up over time. Makes it a little bit easier to get that gold. Of course, easier than ever to be able to get the 10-star, 20-star, all those milestones for additional stats as well, if you're looking to get any of the additional armor that you can get for the kingdom. Boost up those Rowain teams, Guardians Avatar teams. Speaking of which, we'll be showing one when we go over the teams in a little bit. But anyways, as far as Glacial Peak troops are concerned, from the event key drop table this week, there are a lot of things not in drop table. So here is the full rundown. Okay, so from the top, things that are not in this drop table. Saphirox is not in drop table. Or actually, sorry, all the way from the top. King of Ravens is not in drop table. I covered a video on this last week. It is available this week from the campaign pass. So if you go over to campaign, we'll be doing the task later tonight. But if you go to campaign, on the 10th reward, or the whatever you'd call this, the 1,000 tier reward, you end up getting a King of Ravens. This is on the paid side, so you have to spend at least 10 bucks to end up getting this thing. If you spent 25 the other week, you probably already have this thing. However, yes, he is available as of this week. Free to play, you'll be able to get it in a couple of months from now, whenever the next Glacial Peaks event rolls around. However, he is not in event key drop table right now. So if you're looking to get him for free, you'll have to wait until he's either in Soulforge in a couple months, or whenever the next Glacial Peaks after this current event ends up occurring. So do be wary of that. So he is not in event key drop table, so don't try to get him. So King of Ravens, not in drop table. Saphirox, obviously not in drop table. It's crafted from the RNG egg machine. The High Priestess is not in drop table. It is specifically in Volkies, if you want to go get that. Any other thing? I'm pretty sure there's one more. Was Penguin from here? No, I don't think it was. Doom of Ice is only from Blue Tower of Dooms. Gosh, this place has like a billion things. Like, I think that's all of them. So again, the full rundown is Doom of Ice, the 4 faction troops. I didn't mention those, but those are, of course, always applicable for every kingdom. The High Priestess, Saphirox, and King of Ravens. That is 8 total troops, counting the 4 faction troops. That is a lot of troops non-drop table. But anyways, everything else you see here is, for the most part, is it worth using event keys to open anything this week? No. The Mythics are pretty underwhelming and pretty much never used. Queen Mab is such an old meta that it's basically useless, though I do believe I used on one of the team just for the Thursday class event. Borealis is interesting. In theory, it should be good, but Web Spinner exists, which makes it a lot worse. Like, if Web Spinner didn't exist, I feel like Borealis would be used a lot. It has immune to freeze, has a ton of score reduction, has triple damage to freezing, even has a 4 times freeze on its ability. The 2 biggest things holding it back is its ability is not the greatest. It doesn't have any extra turn potential like Web Spinner and everything like that, and the fact that Web Spinner exists. Honestly, Web Spinner existing is the main thing making Borealis not viable. If Web Spinner wasn't in the game, or triple damage burning, this would probably be like the premier triple damage troop to use. But there's so many better ones out there, which is kind of unfortunate. Frost Feather's used occasionally. It's like a weird 4 times freeze mechanic. You even kill it out immediately with Elspeth to get first turn 4 times freeze, which is a mechanic not used too often. But there are some contexts, like Borealis, for example, where you might end up wanting the entire team to immediately be 4 times frozen. So there's some weird niche cases, but honestly, Glacial Peaks has a lot of dated troops. A lot of things that were kind of good when they came out that kind of fell off very quickly over time. And just kind of leaves it with almost no mechanic, because the main mechanic of this place is freeze and mana burn. There's a billion other ways to freeze these days. The best freezers aren't even from this location anymore, with like Frostfire King isn't even from Glacial Peaks. He's from, not Urskia, whatever that one from top right is. Stormheim, I believe, if not mistaken. But anyways, and also mana burn. This place has a lot of mana burn. I actually introduced the mechanic of mana burn. It was so broken when it originally came out that they added immune to mana burn to a bunch of things, which made mana burn almost useless. So, yeah, now it does almost nothing in the current state of the game, which is really unfortunate. It does damage based on how much mana they have, your target, plus what your magic is. So, for example, Queen Mab would end up doing 47 damage, plus, let's say, they currently have 10 out of 20 mana. So, in that case, it would do 57 damage, which, 57's not a lot of damage. It's a good poke to everything, but these days, not so much. It made a lot more of a difference when it was based on mana back when stats were way lower. But obviously, stats are way higher in the current state of the game compared to any time in the past. But anyways, that's a rundown on event keys. As far as weekly events, we have a bit of a weird one this time around. We have ourselves, we do have extra skull damage and spell damage. A little bit weird that we have extra skull damage, as there's almost nothing this week that we could really utilize the skulls with. However, it is a Fey red restriction, which is a really, really, really annoying one. It does not leave that many options, like, at all. Let me just double check something here. Yeah, so as far as the rooms you want to take, ideally, I'd have all 3 here, but somehow I got 5 Lendishines. But anyways, the 3 you want to take are, or don't want to take, I should say, are Vanya, Vendishine, and King Gobtruffle. For the first 15 battles, you're going to be forced to have to take all 3 of these. So the ones you see on the first 15 battles are the ones you don't want to take going forward. And that's basically all you need to remember. Just those 3 that you see initially, just don't take once you go past 15 battles. Because after 15 battles, they'll start to show more of the battles, which they start to score more. The Judge of the Dead and a Mirror Queen ends up scoring more points. And the main one to note is you should always, always, always take King of Ravens every single time you see it. So you could either remember to always take King of Ravens, Mirrored Queen, and Judge of the Dead, or you can always remember to not take the Vanya, the Landishine, and the King Gobtruffle. Although for the first 15 fights, you will be forced to have to take those 3 fights. It's a little bit of a weird ward event, but overall, it is still kind of rarity order. You just have to kind of remember the ones that are better and the ones that are worse. But for the most part, it shouldn't make too big of a difference on the score, as long as you're taking every single King of Ravens, particularly once you get to 31 plus fights, as it will just keep cycling the same battles over and over again by that point. So it might be a little bit annoying initially if you're trying to min-max score, but once you get past that point, it should be very straightforward. As far as options we have, we do not have that many. You could try doing Fairy Godmother. It's very situational. I don't feel like it'd be worth it in this context. We do have Fountain of Stars. Also don't feel like it's going to be worth it. Queen Titania is going to be one of your main options. Does a billion damage, has Fairy Fire, probably the main damage source of every team you want to use this event. We do have Phantom Fox, good mana accumulator. We have access to Sunya if you want to go down that route. We have Summer Knight for tanking, good early game tank if you don't have it. Actually, I showed for the early game team too. Spirit of Rage, okay mana accumulator. I feel like the other one works a little bit better, but it depends on the context of your team, especially if you're using multiple of them, as it'll be more likely for you to get more explodes, as your boost ratio is based on enrage, and once you get a kill, they all get enraged. So if you're using multiple, you get more explodes that way. And more recently, or actually I think the most recent of any of these, we have access to Foxfire King. Foxfire King is a true damage full AoE, so if you don't want to go double Queen of Tanya, or something similar, you can end up going double Foxfire King if you end up picking these up the other week, a couple weeks ago. I think this was available, 3-4 weeks ago? It's still technically in drop table, though. If you didn't pick it up yet, the chance of you randomly getting it from drop table, very unlikely until we have the next event for Volpacia, which I have no clue when that is, assumably soon, because Volpacia has like 0 troops currently. It is so dry on troops right now. But yeah, you can do double this instead of double Queen of Tanya. I went down the double Queen of Tanya route, but you do have the option of this if you so choose. As is a pretty decent true damager, which is technically more damage than Queen of Tanya, but is more consistent Fairy Fire, has extra turn potential, and there's a lot of other things going for it. So I personally prefer Queen of Tanya, plus you have to wait like an extra second to cast its ability since it does have a choice. Luckily it's the first option, so it's quicker to click, but still a little bit more annoying. But yeah, we do not have that many options, as you could probably see from that menu, as that is every single possible option we have, so a little bit dry on options. A little bit weird that we have skull extra damage on a week that we basically have no way to do extra skulls. But anyways, oh yeah, this is the spring event I was talking about. It's actually visible in game. I didn't even notice that. We had a spring event's happening in 2 weeks. It's not applicable this week, but hey, it's around the corner. Anyways, Tuesday, we have ourselves Mirrored Halls faction. Mirrored Halls is a very interesting faction. It probably has the funnest pure faction of any kingdom or any faction. It also has some pretty good treasure rooms, so if you want to go farm it a little bit. Not the absolute best layout out there, but it's pretty good for overall loot. It has 4 guaranteed treasure rooms, okay layout. It's not particularly annoying. But yeah, it is a really fun one because you have like a bunch of troops that can mimic your allies, mimic your enemies, and you can actually finish the pure faction fight with a completely different team than what you started with, which we'll go over more once we go over the team. But anyways, Wednesday we have ourselves the Easter pet, of course. We have that coming in. Little possum-like thingy with an Easter basket and a little ribbon thingy. But yeah, we have that going on Wednesday, obviously cosmetic for the 2023 Easter event. Thursday we have Frost Mage. Frost Mage actually is a pretty good hero class. I feel like there are quite a few that overshadow it these days, most notably Elementalists, because why go freeze when you can go freeze, stun, burn, everything, stun. What was the other one? I missed one. Entangle. When you can go all those effects instead of just freeze. However, Frost Mage is still good for its arcane. So if you're using a blue weapon that really wants to scale, like let's say a Dawnbringer on a Thursday class event, it's actually situationally better than Elementals. One other thing that's really good about it is it does have half mana start while having arcane, so it constantly gains more magic while also having half mana start, while also still having a freeze mechanic. While it's used a lot less in the current state of the game, it is still a very good hero class. It's a lot more situational than it used to be back in the day. Anyways, and Friday we have ourselves a new Deep Delve. The Deep Delve is for the Dark Pits faction, which is good because honestly, Dark Pits layout is so annoying as far as the layout that we have. But as of Friday, we'll be able to go use 2 of these little sigil thingies in order to go get the Deep Delve version. So we'll have that, as well as a new troop coming out with it. We'll also have a new mythic within the drop table, as far as Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests. We'll have a new mythic, which also when you'll probably get to Spring Imp. So unfortunately, a new mythic is very absurdly underwhelming. We'll go over the faction thing more, as well as the new mythic on Friday once we can, once that new troop and the faction is out. So 2 videos on Friday, hopefully. And yeah, we'll go over it more then, as we can't really go over them without them, or at least fully without them actually being in the game. So we'll wait a little bit on that, but we will cover teams for absolutely everything else. Anyways, as far as troops are concerned right now, oddly enough, King Avalon, while he is a legend, he is a very good legend, more so for Guild War, which of course just happened. You've probably even seen him on one of the Guild War teams last week. Honestly, I didn't. However, he's definitely used quite a bit. He's used for pure elf teams. So, for example, like Life and Death Weaver, when you're using the Orb Weaver hero class with Arachnian Weaver, stuff like that. There aren't too many elves to boost, but of course, as more elves come into the game, he becomes increasingly more viable. So, he does have that for him. Overall, it's probably not worth going out of your way for. However, if you happen to not have him and you want him for utility, he's not a bad option to end up going for. Aside from that, there is Phoenicia. Phoenicia, a really good AoE option. Unfortunately, I haven't been using it much since I've gotten Diamantina. We're still coming to Diamantina video. I'm waiting until I have double before I do. So we can cover every possible team, as the double Diamantina team is very meta. We just haven't had the chance to get it yet. We will by next week. But anyways, Phoenicia, still very strong. Main thing you'll be using until you have Diamantina. She's basically under the category of hit very strong with 1 AoE attack. There are several things within this category. We have Phoenicia, Scourge of Honor, obviously Diamantina, stuff like that. They're all in the category of very big AoE burst damage. That their whole premise is just cast for the highest amount of damage they possibly can in 1 singular cast. She has gotten a bit less viability ever since, of course, Diamantina. However, she is a great alternative until then, and gosh, there's a lot of time until then. I think it took us, 6.5 months to end up getting it, and that's with, like, infinite gems, or theoretically infinite gems, but seems like infinite gems. But yeah, it takes a while to get, so Phoenicia you'll be using as an alternative for a long while leading up to that. So it is still very, very worthwhile to consider getting a Phoenicia somewhat early on. I wouldn't say it's one of the first few mythics you get, but it's definitely one you want to eye down if you don't have other alternatives. Maybe if you get Scourge of Honor instead, could also go down that route. Really just depends how you want to go about it these days. It is definitely a bit more of a temporary option these days than a permanent one, due to power creep slowly coming in. Anyways, as far as weapons are concerned, I'd probably say Aberral Crystal, one of the main ones you want to take. It's elemental synergy, and of course 4 times elemental is very strong. Unfortunately, its coloration doesn't work too good with pure elemental teams, so sometimes with elemental teams I find myself not even using it. However, it is still among one of the slightly better explodey weapons. I would definitely say it's within the top 10, probably the lower end of the top 10. However, there's so many of them that lower end of top 10 is still pretty good as far as those are concerned. And aside from that, it's just a bunch of pickup weapons if you just want it for completionist sake or for any kind of event that's going on right now. Well, then again, actually, are any of these Fae? I'm not sure you actually could really use it that effectively on the event. Well, I guess you could use like a Glacial Peaks weapon and kind of run it down that way. But yeah, if you're going to get any of these, I'd probably say Aberral Crystal. Oddly enough, one other one, maybe Silent Knight. This was the second weapon ever added to the game as far as new weapons, oddly enough, all the way back in 2014. And it's actually viable because ever since they added perks, I believe this has double silence now. It silences the last enemy, which has always done. But if I'm not mistaken, it'll pop up here any moment. I believe it also silences the first enemy, meaning for 9 mana cost, you actually get to double silence, which is not bad. Can you please pop up? I don't want to have to go in the other menu. Oh no, it might only drain the first enemy. That's still good though. It freezes the first enemy and drains. That's probably what I'm confusing it with. So yeah, it does not silence the first enemy because it frees them and drain them. Drains them for 3 mana and freezes them. So never mind, it's not double silence, which would have been kind of crazy. Oh, never mind, it's 12 mana cost. Oh, I always thought this used to be lower. Did they nerf it back? They did a while ago, I think. Because a lot of like the really old event weapons. This is actually one of the few ones that isn't money locked, oddly enough. I guess because it was a holiday one. But because obviously this was handed out for the very first Christmas ever in the game. But yeah, I think they might have nerfed it sometime in the past. They did that for a lot of the older weapons, just to make sure none of them were too strong, particularly the $5 money-locked ones, which is something I almost never go over. But there is like a $5 money-locked weapon. Oh yeah, I can't see it here because I already have it, right? Oh no, it's right over here. Most of them are completely useless. For example, this one is completely useless, but they end up nerfing a lot of them so that they would be more useless. Like some of the better ones, like Crescendo and stuff, but some of them still find some use case occasionally. I try not to use them, though, as they are money-locked and generally are pretty useless to begin with anyways. Anyways, so let's go and go over the troops, or the teams. So let's go all the way from the top, and all of which will be in the description below if you want to go and copy-paste any of them. From the top, we're going with Flail. Flail, of course, among one of the better ones. It has a Barrier and Bless whenever you cast it. It's a very, very bulky weapon. It's one of the explodey weapons that works really good in first slot, which sometimes you find yourself having to place it. A lot of times you ideally want to put it into second so that you can end up, if your first slot dies, you end up getting a resummon there. But of course, for something like the Ward events, hopefully you can end up tanking it out. If not, you can end up switching it back. So really it depends how you want to run it. We're mostly going for the Queen of Tanya wipe. Of course, as I mentioned, you can go with the Fox. However, if you want something newer. However, I still personally prefer using Queen of Tanya as extra turn potential. So with Red Storm from Sunspear, which has Perpetual Red Storm, you'll have a pretty good chance of landing extra turn, which will allow you to cycle more damage. Also has a way more consistent Fairy Fire. You simply take about 2 to 3 extra turns, and you'll probably 3 or 4 actually, because they can overlap the same targets. But about 3 or 4 extra turns and use Fairy Fire the entire enemy team, giving you 50 additional spell damage, giving her almost the damage of a true damage option like the other thing. We're also using Phantom Fox here. A couple different mana accumulators we have option to, but if you're only using 1 mana accumulator on your team, Phantom Fox is probably the way to go. And by 1, I mean not doubling up on the other one. For example, like this. So Spirit of Rage, when you double up on it or even triple up on it, though I don't think you need to triple it, but more of them that you have on your team, the more value you get from it, as he does boost ratio from Enrage, and whenever you get a kill, they'll all become Enraged. So in this particular situation, they will have 7 explodes instead of 3 after you get a kill, which is not too bad. Obviously, it's not anything amazing for 12 mana costs. However, you know, it adds up over time. It also has Fire Link, which is really good because your team is restricted to pure red. And if I'm not mistaken, he's the only thing, I believe, unless there was one other one I'm forgetting of. There might be. But I believe he was one of the only one, if not the only thing that has Fire Link for this event. So you also have a mana accumulator that also has Fire Link. So you'll be able to get reds, or you'll be able to get more mana from your reds. We'll also have an Explode option, which is probably where most of his value comes in from. As his Explode option is definitely a little bit weaker, but luckily it's random explodes, whereas the other one, I believe, explodes all purple or something. So if they happen to counter out your color for whatever reason, or there's less on the board, you'll get less. Whereas this will always get the full amount of explosions, either 3, 5, or 7, depending on how many you have on your team being enraged. Anyways, we're running Summer's Fury as our main one for the budget team. It's a really early weapon you get. You get it at like 25 or something red mastery. Summer's in the 20s. And yeah, just keep spamming AoE damage. It gives you some red. Hopefully you'll get alignment on it. We have Red Storm again off of Sunspear in hopes that you'll get more red as you're a pure red team, so hoping for that. And we're using Summer Knight as our tank. You could use instead a hero class as tankier. However, I figured we'd go Sunspear for more mana accumulation, similar to the other team. In this one, we do use it 1 lower, since early on in the game you might not have enough bulk, particularly not with a Barrier on Brown hero class. So instead, we're going with a Barrier a troop. It barriers every single time you cast its ability, gains some bulk, gains some attack damage, and also has some score reduction, and even has Fairy Fire on Skull if you needed it, since this team does not have 4 times Fairy Fire like the Queen of Tanya team, since it doesn't have access to Legends or anything else like that. So we're going with a bit of a more budget build while still kind of having that effect. Anyways, next up, pretty standard team on this next one. It is a yellow-blue restriction as far as the Mirror Halled faction is concerned, and of course this is a Mirror Hall team. Basically just going standard Guards, Avatar, Cirque, and Hadley. As far as damage source, you could try going for a different damage source, but if you have Guards, Avatar, definitely the way to go. We're using Harpy Mage for the turn 2 Empower, and we also have Essence of Evil just to hold down the line and for mana accumulation. Next, we have ourselves a basically High King Iron against Zolgoth team using the good old new Bane of Mercy, which is, oh gosh, I'm going to be using Bane of Mercy so much going forward. It is arguably the best converter they have ever added, because for the longest time, Mercy was. Then there were a few others like, maybe Mercy isn't quite the best, so it's still pretty good. And now, honestly, definitively, I think this is just the best converter. It is 4 times Curse. It is attack for your first ally, and it is a really good convert option, yellow to purple, which is a really good counter. Honestly, yellow to purple and purple to yellow both do a lot of things, as there are a lot of teams that don't use much yellow that go all in on purple, and a lot of teams that don't use much purple that go all in on yellow. So they both have a pretty good combination. Not together, obviously, but, you know, there's kind of synergies they can end up getting. And, yeah, we're basically just using this to get up Mirror, get up Zolgoth, just cast Mirror. Hiking Iron Gut will be able to hit everything because there's no immunes. You have 4 times Curse, so you don't have to worry about it. And Zolgoth cleans up whatever's left. So pretty standard Hiking Iron Gut Zolgoth team, just a Bane of Mercy version of it, which we can now do. Which I'm not sure if I actually showed any Bane of Mercy Underworld teams yet, but there we go. There's one. There's a lot of them. There's definitely a lot of them that can be built. This is one of them. Anyways, Pure Faction. So Pure Faction's a lot of fun. This is honestly probably my favorite Pure Faction battle in the entire game, mostly because you can bring anything to the final battle. Your team has to start Pure Faction. That's still the same. So if you're going for 500 Pure Faction tomorrow for the Tuesday Faction event, you have to start your team with 4 times troops from Merit Halls. However, you do not have to end your team with 4 times troops from Merit Halls. Your entire team by the end of this faction can be 4 completely different troops. The reason this can happen is there are 2 troops, most notably Mirror Queen, that basically, she has a % chance to summon a copy of an enemy. So as your troops die, you will start to get copies of, well, your enemy, meaning you can almost restructure your team to any 4 troops within the entire faction, meaning you could basically go out of your way, reroute to like one of the treasure rooms that might have not only a good treasure room effect, but like a good troop. Like maybe, let's say Dracula's, for example. I believe you get Death Mark after you kill that. So every single time you take Skull, you'll have Death Mark. But on top of that, you could also just get 3 Draculases on your team. So basically, the whole premise of this faction, a couple different ways you can order this too, depending on what you're looking for. Honestly, this one might actually be the better order now that I think about it. It really depends how you want to run it. There's a lot of ways you could run this faction. There's like an endless number of ways. But basically, the whole premise is you actually don't care if your copycat dies. What you're trying to do, you definitely want to make sure you have at least 1 Mirror Queen alive. You ideally want a copycat alive, though copycat's less relevant than Mirror Queen. Like having double Mirror Queen in some situations can be better than copycat. But basically, ideally, let's say 1 of each alive, which is what the structure would end up doing. And basically, you're just going to keep copying enemies. Like your first slot copycat will eventually die. You then go use Mirror Queen, and you'll copy 1 of the enemies. You'll then have a copy of the enemy. Let's say something else on your team dies. Let's say your last slots. Let's say they have something that can hit your last slot, or dies a Death Mark, or some other weird mechanic. Well, you can then go copycat the troop you copied, or then use Mirror Queen to copy a different one from the enemy. And if you play it right, you can quite literally have 4 troops that are just completely from the faction, or not from the Pure Faction, but from within the faction itself. So you could grab like 1 of the legends you see. You could grab 1 of the epics that are good at mana accumulation. You could pick up, copy the legend, so now you have 2 of that legend. You do so many weird shenanigans. It is a very fun faction, and it's not luck-based either. Well, it is somewhat, because you have to deal with these. But for the most part, it's not that luck-based. You know generally what's going to happen most of the times. You do have to deal with these summons that are somewhat luck-based, but if you do it like 2 or 3 times, you know, you'll get past the luck. You might have to cast it a few times, but eventually it will do the thing. But yeah, it's a very fun faction. It's a very diverse faction. There's like a billion strategies to go in with it. And yeah, a fun one just to mess around with. I almost just want to do it just for the fun of it again. Though I'm not going to waste that many gems to go do it again. We've obviously already completed it. Anyways, as far as the final team that we have here, since we'll be covering the other ones on Friday once the troops come out, because we'll have the new Mythic on Friday, as well as the new Faction Troop on Friday, as well as the Deep Delve variant for the Dark Pits. But anyways, last team that we have here is just a Frost Mage class event for Thursday, which actually uses a nice diverse team for once. We're using Dawnbringer, as is pretty much Dawnbringer's role, is run Thursday class events. We have Queen Mab, old meta troop, just for extra damage in case we somehow don't have enough damage. Glimora is mostly just here for, or Grimoria is mostly just here for Waterlink. You could even just double up on her if you wanted to and you don't want to go Queen Mab. More Waterlink for more mana. And Daughter of Ice, of course, is here to spam a bunch of blue. It does unfortunately deny your red, but you can just set your banner to blue and yellow, since your red will be denied, so just don't put anything into red. Just go all in on double blue, yellow, and you'll be good to go. Which is technically +3 blue, yellow. You could technically go double if you really wanted to, with a +2 blue, +1 yellow banner, because the other blue will be covered by your Grimoria. So you can end up going down that route if you so choose. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As I mentioned, Wednesday we'll be having the Easter event pet. Friday we'll be having a new mythic. Also a good time to pick up Spring Imp if you still need it. And on Friday we'll also be having Deep Delve for Dark Pits, as well as a oh gosh, what's it called? A new troop for it. Aside from that, we'll also be getting something for free on Sunday for Easter. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something pretty small, like 50 gems with a couple trait stones like they normally do, but hey, maybe it'll be something big for once, who knows. Sometimes they do an adventure board too on that day too, where they do like a special adventure board. Not sure if they're going to for Easter, but you never know. And while we don't have a special event for Easter, like those week-long events like they have been doing, we do have one for spring that's 2 weeks from now that will last for 2 weeks. So we do have that to look forward to. I've already seen what the armor looks like. If you showed it on stream once, won't show it right now. However, it is a pretty nice looking one, and it's not like a super Easter festive one. It actually looks like a spring armor, which makes sense because it is a spring event. It looks pretty cool. Definitely one I'll probably use a lot going into the future, so definitely make sure to pick that up, as we still don't know when the armors are going to be coming back. So far, no holiday armor has returned, though in all fairness, since they've been doing the holiday armors, no holiday has recycled yet, so we don't know exactly what will happen. Maybe it'll be available every single event. And they're just doing like a big burst the first year or something. We don't know, but if nothing else, at least we're getting a bunch of outfits. So definitely make sure to pick it up, as we don't know when the next return date of it will be. It's obviously just cosmetic, but it's nice to have more outfits, as we haven't really been getting them until just recently within the game. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. I hope you all have a wonderful week, wonderful Easter if I don't see you by then, as of course it's this weekend. And I will catch all of you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the holiday.